size, props, exotics, and futures to jump on now. So let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Something custom chemicals about the console failing out. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben. Let's get it started with Jason and Ben.
Hey, thank you guys as always for tuning in on Twitter or YouTube and maybe more platforms to come. This is the Friday edition of Wanna Bet, where, my God, we finally have a basketball game to talk about. We've got basketball to preview this weekend. We've got some college baseball that we want to get into. Ben may or may not have another WNBA bet. We'll have to stay tuned and find about that. We certainly will have MLB bets. And again, a game one of the finals to review. We're joined today by our buddy Tim Murray of VSiN. Tim is kind enough to come on our show in Baltimore, Inside Access, quite a bit, pretty much every Wednesday around 3:30 Eastern. Tim, let everybody know the stuff that you're doing at VSiN, and we know this show is going to have a bit of a college football bent towards the end because that's where Tim really makes his bones.
Yeah, and we are up and running on the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. So check that out. We had a great episode this week with someone you should get on this program, Paul Stone, just an awesome college football handicapper. So get that wherever you get your podcasts. And then I'm on VSiN on weeknights on prime time from 7 to 11, and then Saturday and Sunday mornings from 10 to 1 p.m. Eastern time with the VSiN Weekend Morning Line, which has been a fun show. It started as the tailgate show for college football, and we've kind of expanded it into everything before football ramps back up. So, yeah, check us out. For those in the D.C., Baltimore area, I believe that show's on Masson 2 every Saturday. So make sure to check that out if you're flipping around the channels, or maybe you fell asleep to an Orioles game the night before, whatever it may be.
Well, and lately they're not putting you to sleep. They're actually playing quality baseball. It's not one of my bets on this show, but I am on Orioles run line tonight with me and Dean Kramer on the mound in Sacktown. So we're going to go through our bets here. For those who are new to the show, first, second, and third down is where we'll give some plays that we like, plays we've made, our three favorite plays actually that we're making for events that are tonight or even down the road. Fourth and long, those are long-term bets or long shot bets. We're going to look at the NCAA college football betting markets there. Overtime, we'll look at the Heisman market. And before we get into our first bet of the day, which Tim will have the honors of doing on first down, Beltway, Ben, can you put up our bet slips and let the people know how we've been doing on the show? So there we go. That's a record of what we've done to date. Mackenzie Brooks from CBS was on with us yesterday. She, like us all, honestly, thought the Thunder would produce a little more than they didn't. I've got some thoughts on why they didn't. Ben and Tim do as well. We'll get into those bets a little bit longer, but there's our record to this point on the show. And like, we'll be doing this every day, and our goal is to make you guys money. We do have college baseball going on right now, Tim Murray. I know that you're looking at those markets. What do you have on first down?
Yeah, so there's some really smart folks out there, and I'll give them a little plug here. Matt Grissom does a great job. He comes on VSiN a lot. Colin Wilson of the Action Network. So I've been dipping my toe a little bit into college baseball. It's a blast to watch, and for anyone who witnessed what we saw in the regionals, it's very unpredictable when you see a team like Vanderbilt lose to Wright State, the number one overall seed, loses to the Horizon League champion. You know, a team like Little Rock, who won 8 conference games in the Ohio Valley Conference, and then they beat LSU as a 14-1 underdog before losing to them on Monday night. So it can be wildly unpredictable. So one bet that I threw in there, and this would be more of a hat tip to my guy, Colin Wilson, but he's been all over UTSA. And look, I went against UCLA in their regional and came up on the wrong side of that. I thought, UC Irvine or Arizona State could come out as a live dog there, and UCLA took care of business. But I think this is a tricky spot here. And UTSA went down to Austin. They rolled through the Austin Regional, knocking out another national seed. So I saw a plus price, plus 145 on UTSA. And for those unfamiliar of the format of the Super Regional, it's a best 2 out of 3. So win 2 games, you're going to Omaha. So I will take a little plus money on UTSA, the Roadrunners, a team that JLC, I think I've talked about a time or two with their football program.
Yes.
But their baseball program is pretty darn good too. So I'll take a little dog to be live here in the super regionals. And then one more that I was poking around, and I believe their game just got underway, but this is more of a long-term play. Look, like any tournament, you got to look at the bracket, right? And how does the bracket draw? Well, what's interesting about college baseball this year, guys, is if you look at the futures market, the teams with the 4 shortest odds in no particular order are Arkansas, LSU, Tennessee, and North Carolina. And North Carolina is on the opposite side of the bracket of the other 3, right? And Tennessee and Arkansas, and what will be an absolute war starting on Saturday night down in Fayetteville, they play each other. So one of those teams is going to be gone. And then LSU is on that side of the bracket as well. So you've got the ACC champ in North Carolina, a team that's got I think a favorable draw. They're, just underway, as mentioned, playing Arizona, and they're super regional. But I think at plus 650, which was the price right before we came on the air at FanDuel, I thought it was worth a little bit of a shot, because if they're able to maneuver their way through their side of the bracket, guys, they head into a championship series where you can hedge off of it. You can bet off, plus 650. So I took a little longer shot on UNC to win the national title at plus 650 prior to the start of this super regional, which is just underway against Arizona. So yeah, two little college baseball bets to get the weekend going.
Nice. All right, Beltway Ben, what you got on first down, brother?
Yeah, I'm going to start in the MLB today. I'm going to go with Bobby Witt Jr. over 1.5 total bases. He comes into this with a 4-game hitting streak, but he's under this in 2 straight, 2 singles for him. Righties are hitting .298 against Martin with .470 slug this season. Witt's 2 for 8 against him in his career, so not great numbers, but he does have a few hits against him and 1 extra base hit. Bobby Witt, 281, 344, 487 slash line against right-handed pitching this season. One of the best players in the game. We know that he can extend a borderline single into a double. Speed, he does a lot of things, a lot of multi-hit games this year, so even if he just picks up a single early with the leadoff at bat, we can get another hit later. With him being in the leadoff spot, or the 2 spot, sorry, he's going to get a ton of at-bats, and he's on the road. They're on the road where Witt's been better, and this is also a divisional matchup. KC's right in the playoff race. These are the games they got to win. I'll get into Kansas City a little bit more with my next play, but I like Bobby Witt over 1.5 total bases.
Yeah, and I like the Royals to still get into the postseason and give the Tigers a run when it's all said and done. My first down bet is an MLB as well. Give me the Mets laying the 1.5 on the run line in the first 5. Antonio Senzatella on the mound for the Rockies, which generally means really good news for whoever's in the batter's box against him. If you haven't been paying attention, Senzatella has allowed 4 earned runs or more in 7 straight starts. Do I think the Rockies are going to get 4 earned runs off of Senga today on the mound for the Mets? I certainly don't think so. The numbers would say not so. So I like that part of the matchup. Senga 1.60 ERA. In Senzatella's last 7 starts, the Rockies' accumulated run differential is minus 25. So do the math on that one. It's pretty lopsided. Like full game wise, Colorado's 2-10 in this catch 12 starts. 9 lopsided losses on the run line. Colorado's last 18 at home, 4-14 on the run line. The Mets won all 3 games back in New York against these guys, I guess a little over a week ago, on the run line without really even swinging the bats much. I like the way the Mets are swinging the bats right now. I think Coors Field will play very well for them. Obviously, we've got 2 starters going in 2 different directions. So I don't mind laying the 1.5 rather than what you'll normally find, maybe a half run on the first 5.
Does their 3-game sweep, the miracle, fear you? Like, does that scare you at all heading into this one? I mean, they're winning. They won 3 straight.
I think it says more about the Marlins really kind of coming back to earth than it does the Rockies taking off. Like, Kyle Stowers has come down from MVP pace. Like, Connor Norby's a big bat for them. He missed a lot of time to injury. Like, he's not really there. Like, Wagaman or whatever the hell his name is. Like, he was a thing for a minute.
Yeah.
Not right now. Right? Like, I feel like the Marlins are starting to hit the wall a little bit. Like, Alcantara can't get it going, right? Myers, not who they thought he was going to be when they drafted him. So the rotation's not great. There's trade rumors about Weathers. I'm a big Ryan Weathers guy. If I'm them, I'm not trading. That's one lefty I wouldn't trade. And Lord knows they've traded a lot of lefties. But no, it does not scare me, Beltway Ben. And I think the Mets are going on a little bit of a heater. All right, second down, Ben, what you got?
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna stick to the Royals here. I'm gonna go with their money line, minus 150, a little bit of juice. But Seth Lugo is making his second start back since returning from the IL with the finger injury. Seth Lugo is as consistent as it gets when healthy, and you're facing a White Sox lineup with a 640 OPS against right-handed pitching since May 1st. That's tied for the worst in the MLB. They're pathetic. They were able to kind of get a jolt for the Orioles, and again, the Orioles, they're playing good baseball right now, but even in that series, they look bad, and we're able to take 3 from the White Sox. They don't really have much, and the Royals do. I think the Royals are trying to go on a little run here. They called up Cags, very good player there. They're 13-6 against teams under 500. They know the teams they have to beat up on, and I think they're going to go on a run here. They're a half a game back out of the wild card race. These are the teams that they cannot afford to lose to, especially when you look at some of the other teams they still have to play in the National League. So I like the Royals to handle business today with Lugo on the mound at minus 150.
Second down, we're going to get into the NBA Finals now. We can have a little bit larger discussion about what we saw, some observations from last night. But look, I love the Thunder on an alt of over 118.5 in the last game. Obviously, they only scored 110. You look at them, though, and what they've done, especially at home, and it is otherworldly, even in the playoffs. They're averaging 122 per game at home in the playoffs. Their offensive rating is staggeringly good. Their defensive rating is staggeringly good. Their last, you look at them at home, the last time that they had back-to-back games at home where they scored 118 or less in consecutive games, you've got to go back 33 home games. You've got to go back to January 3rd and January 5th. They played the Knicks and the Celtics. They scored 117 in one of those games, 105 in the other. Like, that's the last time that you'll find them not hitting this number. They've got 118 or more in 8 of their last 11 at home and 16 of their last 20 at home. And when you really drill down on game one, guys, and like where it went off the rails, like OKC in the playoffs is averaging 19 points a game basically in the paint. They're going 9 for 18 on average in the paint in the postseason. In this game, they went 3 of 17. Like, do I think that's happening again, right? Like 6 paint points where they normally average 19. And then catch and shoot. You look at them catch and shoot in the playoffs, they're averaging 34 points a game and shooting over 43% in catch and shoot situations. 25 catch and shoot points on 29% from the floor in game one. We know they didn't play forever. It's their first time in the finals. I think there were some jitters, even though they covered for us in the first half again. And we'll get to that. But like, I have a hard time thinking they don't score 120. I'm being conservative and playing the alt line here. But what do you guys think about what we saw from OKC offensively? How much of that is Indiana, and how much of that is just a young team in the finals for the first time being a little jittery, missing shots they normally make?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Pacers deserve a ton of credit for just this incredible run. And they, I say this with all due respect, they're cockroaches. They're impossible to kill. And we've seen that now in 4 different instances throughout this postseason. So they deserve credit for just kind of hanging around. And, I was on air last night, and what was impressive from an Oklahoma City standpoint up until it wasn't at the end was that their capabilities of responding to every kind of punch that the Pacers threw. But then ultimately they just couldn't finish the shots towards the end. And JLC, to your point, what I thought was interesting, at halftime, I tweeted out something to the effect of what's more sustainable, the turnovers that the Pacers are committing, which was 19 in the first half, or was it the inability to score inside the arc? I think at halftime, OKC was like 13 of 36 from inside the arc. And obviously the answer was the sustainability, I guess, from that standpoint, was that OKC would continue to struggle from inside the arc, and then the Pacers were going to limit their turnovers. So yeah, I think, maybe, I don't want to say we overlook the Pacers, because I think most of us know that this is a good team led by a star, and Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam played tremendously well last night. And look, Halliburton, when you give him the ball with an opportunity to tie or win the game, I mean, proof is in the pudding. He's going to hit it. But I do anticipate, to your point, Jason, that this is going to be a bounce back effort I don't know if it's going to be, 149 to 106,
Right.
whatever it was in game 2 of the Denver series when they lost game 1 there at home. But I think you're going to get a massive response here from Oklahoma City. And I would be, look, I said prior to the series, I would be stunned if the Pacers won this series. I still would be pretty surprised if they were able to string together 4 victories. Nothing should shock me, I guess, this postseason because it's been as wildly unpredictable as we've seen. But I think you're going to see a classic response here from the Thunder. And I don't want to say the Pacers are going to be, happy with just winning one game, but as you've heard,
did the job.
JLC and Ben, it's really hard to fake desperation, and Oklahoma City's going to be desperate. You can't go back to Indiana down 0-2. So that's why I think, and I don't know if we'll do it here in the third down, but that's why my first look was, look first half. And look, books aren't dummies, right? They're going to juice this puppy up, and that's why you're looking at 6.5 juice to around -135 or 7.5 -115. Some 8s out there in the market, guys. But yeah, for me, it was Oklahoma City first half because look, they led at the halftime, as you mentioned, by double digits. You look at the previous losses that they've had a quick response. And what does Indiana do well? They're finishers. So instead of messing around with a full game spread at 11.5 or so, I think we get a strong effort out of the gates here from Oklahoma City. And that's why ultimately I laid the 7.5 in the first half here with OKC.
Yeah, one more point I wanted to make on that team total over, Ben, and I don't know if you agree with me, but it also looked to me like when they got the lead back up to like 14 with 4.5 to go, all of a sudden it's Caruso sometimes bringing the ball up the court at a snail's pace. It's not Halliburton. It's not SGA pushing and running at Halliburton. It's not that same cadence. It's not that same pace. It looked to me like OKC tried to start bleeding the clock just inside of 5 minutes, and that it killed my team total bet, but it also ended up costing them in the end. Would you agree with that, Ben?
Absolutely. And every single bucket that Indiana had was like early in the game, it was responded big and with a run. And then late, it just wasn't. SGA scores 8 points, I think, in the fourth quarter or 7 or whatever it was, but it was 6 free throws. He looked gassed, and he only played 7 minutes in the fourth quarter. The one where I was like, when I finally said, was when Nembhard's working with SGA and puts between his legs, step back, drills the 3 all net. And like, you just see that Pacers team. They love those thrills. They love those situations. And they're like, of every team in the NBA we've seen in recent years, I just don't know that we've seen a team like this where when they are down a ton of points, they can always come back. They're not letting teams just run away with these games. I do think the next game will be like that, but last night, like, I'm sitting there, they challenge the out-of-bounds call because they think they can get a foul out of it. And I'm like, that might be best for the Thunder because then you send Siakam to the free throw line. He's already missed 2 in a row at the free throw line. And if he makes one, you're tied. If he makes both, you at least have the ball in your hands. SGA is probably going to either get to the free throw line or get to the bucket for a basket, something like that. They don't get that. SGA misses the pull-up jumper, and then Halliburton is there. Carlisle, as smart as he is, he doesn't call timeout, and he lets him work, and it works perfectly for them. So I think them not winning that challenge helps them actually in a big way. But I could not believe it. But with this Pacers team, I told you yesterday, there's been 2 teams I've been wrong about. Washington in that 2023 playoff run. And now this, it's crazy to see them do it, but they thrive off of that energy.
Yeah, when you look at OKC, so the 2 staggering numbers, and also, Ben, that's a great point you made about the challenge, and if it had gone the other way, if it would have worked out, I didn't even think about that. But you got the Miles Turner banked in 3 from the corner, which is just one of those moments where you're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Okay, this is how it's gonna play out. But for Oklahoma City, they were plus 18 in the turnover margin, which is just unbelievable when you think about it. However, they were minus 17 in the rebounding margin. And I heard Zach Lowe talking about this last night, which was, and I think it was Zach, why were the Thunder kind of placating to the Pacers? They should have played their style, play Hartenstein and Holmgren. And I get it. Holmgren did not have a good game last night for OKC. But it was kind of shocking to me that they went small, and you saw the Pacers really take advantage of it. Pascal Siakam ends up with 10 boards. Nesmith ends up with 10 rebounds. I mean, for the Pacers to go plus 17 in the rebounding margin was pretty surprising to me. So curious. And that's what I love about, the finals and the NBA playoffs is that chess match. So what is Daigneault going to do here in game 2 and beyond after what we saw unfold there? I mean, the defense was as tenacious as you would imagine in that first half, guys. But then the Pacers were able to dominate the glass and ultimately, come back and get that victory.
Yeah, I think my guy Hartenstein's going to play more minutes. And Ben and I will be doing a stream tomorrow. I will probably be on his rebounds again in that one. Well, third down, Tim mentioned he's played the first half already, minus 7.5. I played it a little more conservatively, and I'm also on the Thunder first half. I played it minus 6.5 at minus 132. This is what the Thunder have done in the first half. This is their leads or trails at halftime at home in the playoffs. Plus 12, plus 23, plus 8, plus 33, plus 14, minus 2, plus 31, plus 8, plus 18, plus 32. So that's 10 home games. Pretty good sample size. That's 9 of them that they've won by at least 8 points. Their plus minus cumulative at home in the first half in the postseason is plus 15.2. The Pacers on the road in the playoffs, first half, minus 2.3. Like some of these Thunder numbers are absolutely staggering. Their first half net rating at home in the playoffs is 30.5. They have the best offensive rating, 121.2. The best defensive rating, 90.8. So again, their net rating 30.5 at home first half in the playoffs. The next best team is the Pacers at 16.9. So they're almost double the next best team. Not double the average, double the second best team. Assist to turnover ratio at home first half playoffs almost 3-1, 2.82. Turnover percentage minuscule, 9%. True shooting percentage around 59%. Look, we know the Pacers, right? Like you said, they're cockroaches. They're not done till they're done. But they haven't been super fast starters. They've been a little better on the road than home, but they're not the best starting team. I don't think they're going to dominate the second chance points and the boards the way they did the first game. And this is a must-win for OKC. And they start like crazy at home anyway. I am absolutely with you, Tim, whether you want to play at 7.5 or 6.5. I just think from a spread standpoint, that's the way to play this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that was the first one I looked at. And look, like I said, just briefly, when you're looking at where we sit for a full game spread for this game right now, you're looking at 10.5, 11. So you are paying that tax, right? But to all the points that you laid out, and look, there's a reason that a number of shops are already at 8, right? So the 7.5 probably will go away. A lot of people are going to think similarly. And I think I believe, what's going to be interesting, guys, too, is, come Sunday night, as we get extra days to bet on this game, with the point spread being 11, is the public going to gravitate towards the Pacers because of their ability to close out these games? So I'd be curious to see how ultimately it plays. You think back to Game 7 of the Nuggets and Thunder series, where I laid the chalk with the Thunder in that spot, which was, there was a market correction. It closed, I believe, 7.5 there for OKC at home. And, ultimately OKC was able to run and hide. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the public ultimately fires their bets come Sunday night for this game too. But yeah, I'd be banking on this number probably rising a little bit. Even though it is certainly inflated, because I think all the points you laid out, the desperation spot, that's all baked in there. But I do think it's worth it right now. I think this is ultimately going to be a spot where OKC is going to have that desperation, amazing crowd there in OKC. And I think they're going to probably have a double-digit lead at halftime on Sunday night.
Beltway Ben, what's your third down play, brother?
I'm going to college baseball here. I like Auburn to win the Super Regional at minus 145. And I've seen a lot of people on Coastal, and they have the pitching advantage. They're one of the best teams in the country record-wise. They have one of the best rotations in the country, and their bullpen is very good as well. But I think Plainsman Park is going to be rocking. I think it could get to Morrison and Flukie a little bit. Auburn hits 1 through 9. They have a lot of pop. They're not walking a lot. They're not stealing a lot of bases, but they hit the long ball. And Coastal dominated the Sun Belt, but the SEC is different. And I know the SEC had their struggles in the regionals and all that, but I think, yeah, that was not fun. And to come back and then to fall on their face like that. But Ike Irish is one of the best hitters in the country. He's playing at home. Minus 145 again. Coastal 51 wins. Impressive. They've been awesome. I think Auburn is a little bit different than anything they've seen. I think Auburn has a very good chance to win it all this year as long as they can get out of this series here. So the pitching is not as good as Coastal's, but I'm going to rely on their bats, and I think they will hit enough home runs, drive some runs in. I think they'll end up getting to those starters that Coastal has. So I like Auburn to win that Super Regional.
Sweet. All right. That brings us to 4th and long, where we're going to look a little long term here and look at the college football markets and national championship markets. And this is not an area where it's my forte. I do a lot of reading. I tail certain people. I've heard a lot of buzz about Clemson and people looking at Clemson as an interesting value play to be the last team standing. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that? And who do you kind of like in these long-term markets to win it all in college football?
Yeah, so DraftKings, I give them credit. They already put out to make or miss the college football playoff, yes, no odds. So it's nice to have a two-way market out there. So the Clemson to win the title odds, for me, I think have gotten a little short. I ultimately, the ticket I have in my back pocket is Clemson to win the ACC. I bet that at plus 160. I think it's down. DraftKings has it at plus 130. I think it's still playable at that number. When you look at their ACC schedule, they don't play Miami this year in the ACC. Their two most difficult games, in my opinion, are their non-conference opponents in LSU to open the season, South Carolina to wrap up the season. Look, this is a Clemson team that for a couple of years, guys, there was plenty of criticism regarding Dabo, his inability or lack of willingness to go into the portal. They did go into the portal a little bit, but they're number one in the country in returning production this year. And you have a quarterback in Cade Klubnik. I thought he played one of, if not his best game in the college football playoff on the road against Texas. You're entering a third year with the same offensive coordinator. And then you bring in Tom Allen as a defensive coordinator, which I think is a huge add for Clemson. So I understand why people look at them from a national title standpoint, because if they do kind of run the table, there's a good shot that they're able to get one of those buys, and then you're heading into the quarterfinals with a 15 to 16-1 ticket. I think right now in the betting market, if you're looking at that perceived longer shot, whether it be Clemson or Alabama, I think both of those teams are kind of viable there in that 15 to 16-1 long shot. But for me, I think winning the ACC, I go a little bit more conservative. They're still plus money. I think Clemson does take care of business. And here's the thing too. If they're in the ACC championship, let's say against Miami, right now, based off of pure power ratings, they're going to be a favorite on a neutral against Miami. So if you're not feeling great come early December, you can always get off of it with a Miami plus ticket, or you could try to middle it and take Miami plus the points if that is the matchup. Or maybe it's, someone else. Maybe it's a bit of a longer shot. So I think Clemson, it's been a very popular team this offseason, guys. From folks that I've had on my podcast, we've seen the number dip from 20 down to 16 or 15-1 in that national championship futures market. But I think this team's the real deal. And we'll see it, I think, week 1 when they host LSU in one of the many great games in week 1 of college football.
What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, buying it. Dan Campbell, going for it. I am all in on Clemson this year. Cade Klubnik's coming back as his third year as a starter. And the recruit that he was early on, we saw glimpses and we saw that he could be something special, but he needed to improve. And now with it as a third-year starter, I'm buying him. He can run, he can throw. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the overtime. But this team, you're bringing back so much production, and you bring over Tom Allen. We know how good those Penn State defenses have been. And, again, Tim just said it. They don't have to play Miami during the regular season. When you look at their schedule, it's hard to find losses. I mean, LSU is going to be tough week 1, but Brian Kelly has not been good there. And Brian Kelly, his defenses aren't known for doing anything, which is another reason I like Klubnik to win the Heisman. When you play that Georgia game to start the year and you only combined for 10 points in the 2 years or whatever it was, that smears you the rest of the year. And as good as he was down the stretch, you always have that week one matchup where he just did not look good. LSU, I think they're going to come out and put up a ton of points and play good football. I think they'll beat LSU. And then you go on a run, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, UNC. I think this team, with everything they're bringing back, the help at the defensive coordinator spot, and then Dabo has won, and he's underachieved. He hasn't won since 2018. I'm not a Dabo guy, to be quite honest. I'm not a fan of him. But at the end of the day, he has won a national championship. He knows what it takes. Of course, not in this format, but I think they'll be a top 4 seed after ACC play, and I think they could win the national championship. I think there's good reason that a lot of respected people are on it.
Yeah, I am a Dan Campbell guy. I'm not a Dabo guy either, but enough people that I respect have put their money on this for me to ride the lightning with Dan Campbell and put a little bit on that. Okay, overtime. Heisman markets. Tim Murray, how are you playing this?
All right, so I took a long shot here, and this is a super long shot. Devin Dampier to win the Heisman at 100-1. Who is Devin Dampier? All right, he is the transfer quarterback from New Mexico. And, there's a transfer up that's getting a lot of hype, and I'm excited to see what John Mateer is going to be at Oklahoma. He follows and comes with his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, from Washington State, and he was incredibly successful a year ago. But his odds are, in that 25-30-1 range down there at Oklahoma. I think Devin Dampier is going to shock people how talented this kid is. And when you look at different markets, out here in Vegas, a pretty sharp book, Circa has him down at 50-1. Look, when you're betting 100-1 shot, you're doing what? A tenth of a unit, maybe a fifth, whatever. Yeah. Just a couple couch cushions, pizza money, however you want to define it. But those are the type of people personally I like to bet in the Heisman market during the offseason. As the season goes on, you usually can find the eventual winner at a decent price, just kind of see how the year is playing out. I remember a couple of years ago, he didn't ultimately win the Heisman Trophy, but you could have got Bo Nix at 30-1 to win the Heisman. He went off prior to the Washington Pac-12 championship game as the odds-on favorite. So What does that allow you to do? It allowed us to bet on Bryce Young to win the Heisman Trophy, right? So there are opportunities out there to get off of different positions. So look, week 1, Utah opens up on the road at UCLA, 11 p.m. Eastern time on Fox, kind of that get back game. And look, if he goes nuclear in that game, there's a chance those odds are slashed pretty quickly. So when I saw DraftKings 100-1, I had to look at Devin Dampier, the quarterback at Utah, as a long shot to win the Heisman Trophy. So yeah, that was one that I snuck in there to the account just as a long shot to see how it plays out, because I'm a believer in him. And similarly to what we saw from or what we are going to see from John Mateer at Oklahoma with his offensive coordinator following him, he also brings his offensive coordinator Jason Beck from New Mexico to Utah. So I think this is a fun one. The Big 12, as it always is, completely wide open. Utah, one of the co-favorites at around plus 550. By the way, just a sneaky observation. The Big 12, folks, is a really fun quarterback conference this year. When you look at the futures odds right now across the Big 12, I can look at all of those quarterbacks and say, man, those are some pretty good quarterbacks, whether it's Avery Johnson at Kansas State, whether it's Sam Levitt at Arizona State. Texas Tech is going to bring back Morton. You have Jake Retzlaff at BYU. Sawyer Robertson, wildly underrated in my opinion, at Baylor. Jake Hoover at TCU. Rocco Becht at Iowa State. Jalen Daniels at Kansas. The Big 12 is a really fun conference this year. And in a year, guys, where there's a lot of uncertainty at the quarterback position amongst the top teams, right? Whether it be Ohio State, you could throw Texas in there, even though everyone expects Arch Manning to be amazing. Whether it be Oregon, whether it be Notre Dame, a lot of question marks at the quarterback position. The Big 12 actually has some answers, and I think it's going to be a fun conference to keep an eye on, and that's why Devin Dampier at a super long shot was one that I had to play at 100-1.
Love a good deep cut. And Ben, I know you talked about Cade Klubnik about a week ago, and just real quick, you obviously endorse putting a little sprinkle on him as well.
Oh, yeah. Cade Klubnik, I mean, I think it's going to be a very, very good year for him. 8 quarterbacks have thrown for combined for 4,100 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 7 or less turnovers. 5 of them were Heisman finalists, or 5 were winners, 2 were finalists, and then there was Cade Klubnik. And you look at guys who have won the Heisman Award: Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Marcus Mariota. We're not going to get another John T. or Travis Hunter type of year. I think this will be a quarterback award this year. And again, I talked about it before real quickly. No week 1 versus Georgia. That stuck with Klubnik all year in both seasons. This year they play LSU. I think that offense will turn it on. Easy ACC schedule. So I like Klubnik. I'm taking him to win it.
Excellent. You should turn on VSiN and watch our guy Tim Murray. Again, when can everybody catch you?
You can catch me Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. and during the weeknights at 7 p.m.
We appreciate your time and insight. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Ben and I will be back with a stream Saturday and Sunday, breaking down what we like in MLB and more bets that we're placing on game 2 of the finals. And we will see you back again soon on Wanna Bet.